introduction and thank all of you very much for being, what a fantastic rally. I don't know if I can squeeze any more people in here. Thank you so much for being out. Some people told me that Louisiana was a conservative state. Guess not. Which leads me to why I am here in Louisiana. And I'll tell you why. Let me begin by just telling you that I think my colleagues in the Democratic Party have made a very, very serious mistake. And that is they have kind of written off half of America, including Louisiana. The time is now for us to fight in 50 states in the country. People have no work, when kids have no food, when folks have no health insurance, that's where we should be. I want to begin by telling you something that no other presidential candidate will tell you. And that is that no president, not the best intentioned person in the world, will be able to address the enormous crises facing our country by himself or herself. What we need in this country is a political revolution. What that revolution is about is the American people from Louisiana to Vermont, from the north to the south, say loudly and clearly that this great country of ours, our government, belongs to all of us, not just a handful of billionaires. The truth is that our opponents literally have unendless supplies of money, billions and billions of dollars to put into the political process to elect candidates who represent the rich and the powerful. That's what they have. But we have something that they don't have, and that is we have the people. And when people stand united, which is the history of change in America, when people stand together and say, enough is enough, we won't accept racism, we won't accept homophobia, we won't accept sexism, we won't accept anti-immigration hysteria. When we stand together, there is nothing that we cannot accomplish. Politics in a democratic society really is not a complicated process. What it is supposed to mean is that as a democratic nation, we take a hard look at the problems facing our people. We debate them, we accept different points of view, and then we go forward in attempting to resolve them. That's it. Unfortunately, what happens today, primarily I think because of the media, politics is looked at as if it were a baseball game. How much money do you raise? How you doing in the polls? Or a soap opera, things about people's personal life. And we get deflected from the real issues. This campaign is not about Bernie Sanders. It's not about Hillary Clinton. It's not about Jeb Bush. It is about you. Our kids. And Jane and I have 4 great kids and 7 beautiful grandchildren. It is about our parents. It is about our environment. It is about our place in the world. Don't let them hang you up on this issue or that issue. That's not what's important. What's important is what are the issues that impact the 300 million plus of us, and how do we go forward? Those are the issues. As you may know, our campaign so far is surprising a lot of people, a lot of them. And the media pundits are worried and they're wondering, how does it happen? Why are 4,000 or 5,000 people out here in Louisiana? You're not supposed to be here. 4,000 people out a week ago in Arizona, in Phoenix. The answer, I think, is that people are catching on, that there is something fundamentally wrong with the way we do economics and politics and people want to go beyond establishment ideas they want new ideas, and they want to make fundamental changes in the way we do business in this country. People understand that since 1985, there has been a huge redistribution of wealth in America. You know, my Republican colleagues get very nervous. They start shaking when you talk about redistribution of wealth. Because all the rich guys are worried that we're going to take their money. But the fact of the matter is, in the last 30 years, there has been a huge transfer of wealth in America. The problem is, it has gone the wrong way. Trillions of dollars have flowed right from the heart of the middle class and working class families right up to the top 1/10 of 1%. And you know what we're going to do together? We're going to reverse that flow. But I am really proud. It's not only the huge turnout that we have here this evening and the other turnouts that we've had. I'm not only proud that we have raised individual contributions from 280,000 Americans. The average contribution was less than $35. Fueled not by the billionaires and the millionaires, but by ordinary people, and I thank all of them. This Wednesday night, in fact, we're going to do something we think is unprecedented. We're going to have over 2,000 organizational meetings in 50 states of this country in a digital way, and I hope that Louisiana participates strongly in that. What I want you to do is to develop a world vision which does not think small. Don't get caught up in the debate that says, well, it's unfortunate the United States of America is a poor country. You know, we can't fund this, we can't fund that. We're going to have to throw people off of health insurance. I want you to think big and to understand this is the wealthiest country in the history of the world. There is nothing we cannot accomplish. Let me just touch on a few of the issues that I think are important. At the top of my list is the issue of income and wealth inequality. Today in America, as I just mentioned, we are the wealthiest country in the history of the world, but most people don't know it. And the reason that most people don't know it is that almost all of the wealth is flowing into the hands of the few. Today in America, we have more income and wealth inequality than any other major country on earth, and it is worse today than at any time since 1928. The issue of income and wealth inequality, when you think about it, when you put it on the table, is the great moral issue of our time, it's the great economic issue of our time, and it is the great political issue of our time. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is this. Are we content as Americans to see a proliferation of millionaires and billionaires at the same time as we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of any major country on earth? Are we content to see almost all of the new income going into the hands of the top 1 or 2% when millions of people throughout this country are working longer hours for lower wages? Let me be very clear. There is something profoundly wrong when the top 1/10 of 1% owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. There is something profoundly wrong when one family, the Walton family of Walmart, owns more wealth, one family, than the bottom 130 million Americans. There is something profoundly wrong when in the last 2 years, the wealthiest 14 people in America saw their wealth increase by $157 billion in 2 years. More wealth than is owned by the bottom 40% of the American people. This grotesque level of income and wealth inequality is immoral, it is bad economics, it is unsustainable, it is un-American, and together we're going to change it. The very, very rich get much richer, and virtually everybody else gets poorer. That is a rigged economy, and that economy is going to change. We are going to create an economy that works for working families and not just the super wealthy. This campaign is sending a loud message to the billionaire class. You cannot have it all. You cannot get huge tax breaks when children in America go hungry. You cannot continue to send our jobs to China when people in America are desperately suffering. You cannot hide your profits in the Cayman Islands and in other places when there are so many unmet needs in this country. And our message to the billionaire class is their greed, which is destroying this country, has got to end, and we are going to end it for them. But when we talk about the economy, we are not only talking about the grotesque level of income and wealth inequality. What we are also talking about is the tragic reality that for the last 40 years, the great middle class of this country, once the envy of the entire world, has been disappearing. Despite exploding technology and increased worker productivity, median family income in this country is almost $5,000 less than it was in 1999. In other words, the middle class of this country is on the move. Problem is, we're moving in the wrong direction. Brothers and sisters, in my state of Vermont, and I know it's true here in Louisiana, it is not uncommon for people to be working not just one job, but 2 jobs, 3 jobs to cobble together some income and some health care. That is not what the American economy should be about. When we talk about the economy, it's important to talk about issues of unemployment. Let me tell you something that you don't hear much about. When you read the papers once a month, you get the official U.S. unemployment rate, which is now about 5.3%. That's the official rate. But what you may not know is the official rate does not include those people by the millions who have given up looking for work, and more importantly, the many millions who are working part-time when they want to work full-time. You add all of that together, real unemployment is well over 10%, not 5.3%. And the other issue I want to raise is an issue that almost nobody talks about. One of the fun things about running for president, there are a few, is that you have the opportunity to raise issues that have just been swept under the rug. And here's one, and it's a real tragic issue. We don't talk about it at all. And that is the crisis of youth unemployment. I'll tell you what I mean by that. What a recent study showed is that for kids who graduated high school, who are between the ages of 17 and 20, if those kids are white, their real unemployment rate is 33%. If they are Hispanic, 36%. If they are African American, the real unemployment rate for those young people is 51%. And if anybody in this room thinks there is not a correlation between the fact that we have more people in jail than any other country on earth, and we got youth unemployment of 30, 40, 50%, if you think there's not a correlation, you'd be wrong. And in my view, it makes a lot more sense to be investing in jobs and education for our kids. We should be investing in jobs and education, not more jails or incarceration. I want this country to have the distinction not of having more people in jail than any other country, but of having the best educated workforce of it. And when we talk about the economy, it's not just income and wealth inequality, and it's not just outrageously high rates of youth unemployment. It also is the fact that in Louisiana, in Vermont, all over America, millions and millions of people are working at totally inadequate wages. I remember talking last year to some young people in Detroit, Michigan, trying to make it on $7.25 an hour. They couldn't even get full-time work at a fast food restaurant, working at one place, working at two places, taking a bus to the third place. And that goes on all over America. So let's be clear. The federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour is a starvation wage. We need a minimum wage, which is a living wage, which is $15 an hour. It is not a radical idea to say that if somebody works 40 hours a week, that person should not be living in poverty. A couple months ago, I was in Iowa. I was talking to people at a farmer's market. A guy was telling me that at the end of the farmer's market, they take the produce that was not sold and they donate it to an emergency food shelter. And I asked him, I said, well, how many people who go to the emergency food shelter actually are working, you know? And he said 90% of the people who go to the food shelter. All over this country. You have people who are working 40 or 50 hours a week. They're not earning enough money to feed their families. That has got to change. Speaking to my brothers here, you got to stand with us on this issue. Women today make 78 cents compared to what men make. We must fight for pay equity for women workers. Earn nothing more than the same level of pay as men. We're going to take a huge chunk out of poverty. We'll allow families to live in dignity. Pay equity. All over this country, my Republican colleagues talk about family values. Have you ever talked about family values? They just love families. But all of you know what they mean when they talk about family values. This is what they mean. They say that the women of America cannot control their own bodies. I disagree. They say that the women of America are not smart enough to be able to buy the contraceptives they need. I disagree. Is that our gay brothers and sisters should not have the right to get married or enjoy the rights of other Americans. I disagree. We made progress in recent years in breaking down discrimination barriers, and we're going to continue to make progress. There's somebody, as I mentioned, who has 4 kids, 7 grandchildren, and has been married for 27 years. I believe in family values. They're just a little bit different than my Republican colleagues. About what I think are real family values, values based on love and support of family. About what I think are real family values, values based on love and support of family. Let me tell you why that is a family value. Because today, in Louisiana, Vermont, all over America, women are having babies. Good thing. And it's an especially good thing for the babies who are being born. It's a big day for them too. But here's the thing, in a very serious point. If that mom and that family have sufficient income, mom and dad can stay home with the baby, get to know the baby, get to love the baby. And for those of you who are parents, as I am, you know what an extraordinary part of your life that is. It's unforgettable. If that family has money, mom, dad can stay home for weeks and months. If that mother does not have sufficient income, she is forced to go back to work in 3, 4, 5 days, separated in this momentous hour of her life from her offspring. That is not a family value. Forcing, for economic reasons, a mother to go back to work and separate her from her baby is not something that should take place in America. And that is why, if elected president, we will have 3 months of paid family leave. The United States is also the only major country on earth that does not guarantee paid sick leave. Now, I don't know about you, but I travel around a lot and I go to a lot of restaurants, and I would very much prefer not to have somebody who has the flu or some contagious disease handling my efforts. Let me mention something else to you. Some of you will know and some of you may not know. And that is, as a result of the collapse of the American middle class, in order to get by, to earn enough money, the American people are now working the longest hours of any people in a major industrialized country. Let me mention something else to you. Some of you will know and some of you may not know. And that is, as a result of the collapse of the American middle class, in order to get by, to earn enough money, the American people are now working the longest hours of any people in a major industrialized country. This is a big issue which we do not talk about. We work, the Japanese are very hardworking. We work 137 hours a year more than the Japanese, 260 hours a year more than the British, and we work a hell of a lot more than the French. But here's the point. It's a very serious point. Some of you remember when we were in high school and we read our high school history books. You remember seeing these big pictures of workers in the early 1900s marching down the street. And they held these huge placards and these banners. And the workers said in 1915, in 1910, they said, "We are not beasts of burden. We do not want to work 60 or 70 hours a week. We want time off for our families. We want education. We want leisure time." That was 100 years ago. Today, unbelievably, 85% of working men and 65% of working women work more than 40 hours a week. And for many workers, they have 0 vacation time. So I think that every American worker is entitled to at least 2 weeks paid vacation. When pollsters go out and they call you up on the phone and they say, "What's on your mind?" usually the answer is jobs. We're worried about jobs. Why are people worried about jobs? They're worried about jobs because they know that unemployment is high. They know that if they're 55 years of age, they can walk into work tomorrow and find their job replaced by somebody half their age and half their wages. That is why we need a massive federal jobs program to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure. Our roads are crumbling, our bridges are crumbling. You know about water systems here in Louisiana. Our water system is falling further and further behind other countries. If we invested $1 trillion over a few years, we could create 13 million decent paying jobs. And that's what the time is long overdue to take a hard look at our trade policies. The permanent normal trade relations with China have resulted in the loss of millions of decent paying jobs. We need a trade policy which demands that corporate America invest in this country. And when we use terms like greed and recklessness and illegal behavior, these are just a few words to describe the crooks on Wall Street. We bailed out Wall Street because the major banks were too big to fail. Most of them today are a lot bigger than they were when we bailed them out because they were too big to fail. Bring back Glass-Steagall legislation. Every other issue. As some of you know, as most of you know, 5 years ago, the United States Supreme Court made one of the most disastrous decisions in the history of our country. In a 5-4 vote, the Supreme Court said to the billionaire class, they said, okay guys, you already own much of the economy. We're going to allow you to buy the United States government, and that is what they are doing right now. I have not made many promises during this campaign, but here's one I will make to you. And that is, no nominee applying to the United States Supreme Court will go forward unless that man or woman makes it loud and clear that they will vote to overturn Citizens United. Further than overturning Citizens United, I want to see this country have a strong and vibrant democracy. I want to see us have one of the highest voter turnouts in the world. I want people in this room, and people who have different points of view, I want them to be able to run for political office without having to beg wealthy people for campaign. I believe we have got to move toward public funding of elections. In this election cycle alone, the Koch brothers, the second wealthiest family, one family is going to spend close to $1 billion electing candidates to make the rich richer and everybody else poorer. The amount of money that this one family is going to be spending in this election cycle is more money than either the Democratic or Republican parties will be spending. When you have one family spending more money than either of the two major parties, brothers and sisters, you're not looking at a democracy, you're looking at an oligarchy. One of the crucial fights of this campaign is to do everything that we can to defeat this oligarchic trend and maintain a strong and vibrant democracy process. When we talk about the issues facing this country, all of us must be aware that we are living in a highly competitive global economy. And if we are to succeed, we need the best educated workforce in the world. It is incomprehensible to me that in America today, we have hundreds of thousands of bright young people who want to go to college, who want to be doctors and scientists and engineers, but they can't go to college because their family lacks the income. And it's not only unfair to those young people, it is dumb if we're talking about the future of America. That is why I have introduced legislation which would make every public college and university in America tuition free. What that means. Because it's not only important for those who are in high school who want to go to college. What it means is that kids here in the New Orleans area, in my state of Vermont, who are in the 4th or 5th grade, whose parents have never gone to college, whose family has no money, what they will understand is one simple point. If they study hard and they do well in school, they will have the opportunity to get the education. There's another issue, and I am not insensitive to the fact that I am in Louisiana, where there's a lot of fossil fuel. But let's be frank about another issue. And that is, in terms of climate change, the debate is over. According to the almost unanimous scientific community, climate change is real. It is caused by human activity. It is already causing devastating problems in our country and around the world. And what the scientists tell us, in no uncertain terms, is if we do not get our act together, the future of this planet will be very, very dangerous. What they are talking about is that by the end of this century, the planet Earth will be between 5 and 10 degrees Fahrenheit warmer, more drought, more floods, more extreme weather disturbances. You know something about extreme weather disturbances? Yeah. More rising sea levels, more global conflict as people fight for limited natural resources. We have the moral responsibility to lead the world in transforming our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energies like wind, solar, and geothermal. I am more than aware that there will be economic dislocation, and as part of any climate change legislation, we must protect those people who will lose their jobs and help them get new jobs. Some of you know, and some of you don't, that there is one major country on earth that does not guarantee health care to all people as a right. That's the United States of America, and that has got to change. In Burlington, Vermont, it's about an hour away. Well, we got a few Burlington. It's an hour away from Canada. In Canada, everybody has health care. In the UK, everybody has health care. In Germany, everybody has health care. Throughout Scandinavia, everybody has health care. In the United States of America, everybody should have health care. That is why I believe in a Medicare for all single payer. Let me conclude by telling you that what you already know. Change does not take place without struggle. Frederick Douglass, the great abolitionist, said freedom is never given to anybody, it has to be struggled for. We should be very proud that in the last many years we have made great progress in civil rights, in women's rights, in gay rights, in disability rights. But all of us know the struggle continues. When an African-American woman gets yanked out of her car, when that happens, and when we all know that would not have happened to a middle-class white woman, we know that we need some serious change in criminal justice in this country. I was a mayor for 8 years, and I worked hard with the police. Anyone who thinks being a police officer is an easy job is pretty mistaken. It is a tough job. But what we have got to do, that's right, police officers deserve a lot of support. Is to make sure that our police departments are part of the community, are not seen as threats. We have also got to work hard to make sure that non-violent offenders are not locked up. And when we talk about bringing our country together, we have also got to recognize that there are 11 million undocumented people in this country. And our job is not to demonize them, not to make racist comments about them, but to find them with a path toward citizenship. As I said earlier, this campaign is not about me. This campaign is about you and 300 million other Americans. And what I've also said time and time again, no president can do it alone. We need a grassroots political movement of which I hope you will become part. Do not let our opponents divide us up by race. Do not let them divide us up by sexual orientation. Do not let them divide us up by gender or by the I want to just conclude by reminding you of something. A couple of years ago, I was way up in northern Vermont, and I was at a meeting which was sponsored by a veterans organization to honor the men and women who fought in World War II. It was a very moving experience. And by the way, when we talk about issues, as the former chairman of the Senate Veterans Committee, I hope you all agree with me that we are never going to balance the budget on the backs of the men and women who work hard. And when I was there, a young woman playing a video. It started the meeting with a video. And the video was the recording, the video of Franklin Delano Roosevelt on December 8, 1941. You all remember what that was? That was one day after Pearl Harbor. And here was the point. On that day, Roosevelt was declaring war against Japan, and a few weeks later he was declaring war against Germany. It was the start of World War II. On that day, December 8, 1941, the United States military was unprepared to fight the kind of war that it was going to have to fight. The military was not strong. We were not producing the planes, the guns, the tanks, the ammunition that we needed. But here's what happened in America. In 2.5 years' time, the war was essentially won because the American people came together. And they won a war on two fronts. Now, if we could do that 60 plus years ago, don't tell me that the United States of America today, the wealthiest country in the history of the world, can't guarantee health care to all people. That when mom and dad go to work, they can't know that their kids are the best child care system in the world. That every kid in this country can't get an education regardless of the income of his or her family. Don't tell me that we can't expand Social Security so that all of the elderly and the disabled have at least a minimal standard of living. My simple point is this. When we come together as a nation, when we are prepared to stand up to the greed of Wall Street and corporate America, when we are prepared to tell them that this great country belongs to every man, woman, and child, and not just to a handful of billionaires. When we have the courage to do that, there is nothing we cannot